Stonehenge is a stone circle in Wiltshire, England. It was built 5,000 years ago. It took 1,000 years to build. It's an area 7.5 times as big as Central Park in New York City. The circular bank and ditch around Stonehenge itself encloses an area of over 10,000 square meters. The largest stone, the heel stone, weighs about 30 tons. Most scientists think that it was built and rebuilt by generations of ancient civilizations, and is considered older than the Great Pyramids and the Roman Empire. 2. There is strong archaeological evidence that Stonehenge was used as a burial site, at least for part of its long history, but most scholars believe it served other functions as well, either as a ceremonial site, a religious pilgrimage destination, a final resting place for royalty, or a memorial erected to honor certain religious beliefs. About 64 cremations have been found, and perhaps as many as 150 individuals were originally buried at Stonehenge, making it the largest late Neolithic cemetery in the British Isles. Evidence shows that one grave contained a child's ear bones and a pot, another a woman, who died in her 20s or 30s and was buried with a unique shale object that may have been part of a club. It could be argued that people buried with such objects could represent certain rituals conducted at the time as part of their beliefs. 4. The earliest monument. It is possible that features such as the heel stone and the low mound known as the North Barrow were early components of Stonehenge, but the earliest known major event was the construction of a circular ditch with an inner and outer bank, built about 3000 BC. This enclosed an area about 100 meters in diameter, and had 2 entrances. It was an early form of henge monument. Within the bank and ditch were possibly some timber structures, and set just inside the bank were 56 pits, known as the Aubrey holes. There has been much debate about what stood in these holes. The consensus for many years has been that they held upright timber posts. But recently the idea has re-emerged that some of them may have held stones. Within and around the Aubrey holes, and also in the ditch, people buried cremations. About 64 cremations have been found, and perhaps as many as 150 individuals were originally buried at Stonehenge, making it the largest late Neolithic cemetery in the British Isles. The stone settings. In about 2500 BC, the stones were set up in the center of the monument. 2 types of stone are used at Stonehenge, the larger sarsens and the smaller bluestones. The sarsens were erected in 2 concentric arrangements, an inner horseshoe and an outer circle, and the bluestones were set up between them in a double arc. Probably at the same time that the stones were being set up in the center of the monument, the sarsens close to the entrance were raised, together with the 4 station stones on the periphery. About 200 or 300 years later, the central bluestones were rearranged to form a circle and inner oval, which was again later altered to form a horseshoe. The earthwork avenue was also built at this time, connecting Stonehenge with the River Avon. One of the last prehistoric activities at Stonehenge was the digging around the stone settings of 2 rings of concentric pits, the so-called Y and Z holes, radiocarbon dated by antlers within them to between 1800 and 1500 BC. They may have been intended for a rearrangement of the stones that was never completed. Later history. From the Middle Bronze Age, less communal effort went into the construction of ceremonial monuments such as Stonehenge and more on activities such as the creation of fields. In the Iron Age, Probably about 700 BC, a major hill fort later known as Vespasian's Camp was constructed 1¼ miles east of Stonehenge overlooking the River Avon. Stonehenge appears to have been frequently visited in the Roman period, from AD 43, since many Roman objects have been found there. Recent excavations raised the possibility that it was a place of ritual importance to Romano-British people. The small town of Amesbury is likely to have been established around the 6th century AD at a crossing point over the Avon. A decapitated man, possibly a criminal, was buried at Stonehenge in the Saxon period. From this time on, sheep husbandry dominated the open downland around Stonehenge. The earliest surviving written references to Stonehenge date from the medieval period, and from the 14th century onwards there are increasing references to Stonehenge and drawings and paintings of it. 3. The culture built around it suggests Stonehenge was thought as a symbol of unity in late Neolithic Europe. Scientists think that the stones were a way to tell the time of year. Because of how they are shaped and placed, just like a clock however, this circle operates completely on the direction of the sun rather than modern technology. This proves us to why Stonehenge is a major site of celebrations at the summer solstice and other pagan festivals today. 4. One of the pits, which was 13 feet, 4 meters, wide and 6.5 feet, 2 meters, deep, was the largest of its kind in northwest Europe, as the archaeologists said. The pits, dating from between around 8,200 BCE and 7,800 BCE, showed hunter-gatherers who had roamed the landscape during the early Mesolithic period, when Britain was re-inhabited after the last ice age. Also, Stonehenge appears to have been frequently visited in the Roman period, since many Roman objects have been found there. Coins, pins, jewelry, and fragments of pottery. Now, how were the stones built? Stonehenge is a masterpiece of engineering, built using only simple tools and technologies, before the arrival of metals and the invention of the wheel. The first monument. The first monument at Stonehenge was a circular earthwork enclosure, built in about 3000 BC. A ditch was dug with simple antler tools, and the chalk piled up to make an inner and an outer bank. Within the ditch was a ring of 56 timber or stone posts. The monument was used as a cremation cemetery for several hundred years. In about 2500 BC, the site was transformed by the construction of the central stone settings. Enormous sarsen stones and smaller blue stones were raised to form a unique monument. Building Stonehenge took huge effort from hundreds of well-organized people. Transporting the stones. There are two types of stone at Stonehenge, the larger sarsen stones and the smaller blue stones. Bluestone is the term used to refer to the smaller stones at Stonehenge. The blue stones had a complex and varied history, with their current positions at Stonehenge only representing their final locations. The sarsen stones are a type of silcrete rock, which is found scattered naturally across southern England. For many years most archaeologists believed that these stones were brought from the Marlborough Downs, 20 miles, 32 kilometers away, but their exact origin remained a mystery. However, recent research using a novel geochemical approach has not only confirmed that the Marlborough Downs were indeed the source, but has pinpointed the specific area that the sarsens most likely came from, the area known as West Woods, southwest of Marlborough. On average, the sarsens weigh 25 tons, with the largest stone, the heel stone, weighing about 30 tons. 5. The first known excavation at Stonehenge, in the center of the monument, was undertaken in the 1620s by the Duke of Buckingham, prompted by a visit by King James I. 1. The king subsequently commissioned the architect Inigo Jones to conduct a survey and study of the monument. Jones argued that Stonehenge was built by the Romans. In 1874 and 1877, Sir William Flinders Petrie surveyed Stonehenge in detail, and devised the numbering system for the stones that is still in use today. But concerns arose when one of the sarsen stones had fallen. However, this was resolved by a restoration campaign held by Colonel William Hawley, which then led to the discovery of Mesolithic pits which archaeologists are still studying today. Excavations in 2002 to the south of Amesbury, 3 miles from Stonehenge, led to the discovery of the Amesbury Archer, a man who lived in continental Europe before being buried in the earliest Bronze Age with gold objects, the earliest ever found in Britain. But in 2008, the Spaces project led by Tim Draville not only uncovered remains of dead bodies, however, revealed surprising evidence for Roman activity at Stonehenge through digging large pits. But more recently, new bluestone monument has been found in Preseli Hills, and the empty stone holes suggest that at least 6 bluestones were removed from this site at some point in prehistory, as it seems likely that at least the 3 existing known unspotted foundations at Stonehenge were brought from there. Overall, DNA from buried individuals show us close relations between existed families. However, still to this day it still remains a mystery as to who built the stones and where they came from. Why does this matter? Stonehenge has often been at the forefront of the development of archaeology. Our understanding of the monument is still changing as excavations and modern archaeological techniques continue to yield more information. Stonehenge has perhaps been the focus of more theories about its origin and purpose than any other prehistoric monument. Today, the interpretation which is most generally accepted is that of a prehistoric temple aligned with the movements of the sun. It is the most striking example of the ceremonial complexes emerging across Britain and Ireland at this time. These were places to honor the ancestors and mark important moments in the calendar. At the center of this belief system was the sun, with the solstice alignments enshrined within the fabric of the monument.